Hey there, I just want to do a massive hello and welcome to the High Vibe Healers podcast. If you would like to be interviewed, if you are a high vibe healer, a coach, or wellness practitioner in Australia or New Zealand, I will leave a link in the description or the caption of this video/podcast. And if you know anybody who would be perfect for the podcast, please feel free to share it with them. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe or rate and review us. It will really help us to grow and reach more healers in the ANZ area. So thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy this interview. Hi, Jen. It is lovely to have you here. Thank you so much for joining me today. As I said just prior to recording, I absolutely love your space. It is so relaxing
Thank you.
and yeah, it just evokes a sense of calm. So would you like to speak a little bit about what it is you do? Introduce yourself a little bit.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really
Yeah, no
excited
problem.
about our chat today. So, my name's Jen. I am an intuitive embodiment coach. And what that basically entails is I help clients come back into their body, transmute any trauma that they might hold within there, and then connect them with their intuition because everything's all clear and there's no mess and noise and clutter in the head getting in the way. So it's really just teaching people like how important it is to be in their body. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
That's fantastic. We had somebody yesterday who did something, the results would have been quite similar, but it's just framed totally differently. And it's all about connecting the mind to the body so that we can, um, oh my goodness, Naomi Reardon is her name. She is a former nurse and very, very passionate about helping people to do that, to heal
Yeah,
physical ailments as well, which I think is fantastic. But trauma release is so necessary
yeah,
for practically everybody. And
I
I
know.
wish more people did it
Yeah,
because
well, this
we
is
would
the
all be a lot
thing.
nicer to each other.
I know it's because we approach each other through the lens of our trauma. We're actually seeing the world through the traumatic things that have happened to us in the
Mm,
past. And that's how we approach things. And if we can get rid of all of that trauma, obviously not all of it, we are always going to have
yeah,
some that we can't get to because it's part
yeah,
of this experience called life. But
yeah.
yeah, even just acknowledging the fact that we're traumatized in the first place is massive. It's huge.
And accepting that it's there.
Yes,
And I find that whenever I was doing my energy meditations, just accepting that those shadows were there just
yes.
reduced them so much more and even cleared quite a lot of them. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, I see you, I hear you, and
Yes,
I apologize to my shadows. Just I'm sorry for not knowing you were there. I'm sorry for ignoring you. And that just clears up so much energetic
it,
space
yeah.
to allow further healing to come in
Mhm.
and maybe even further shadows. And I always make sure that I thank them for showing themselves to me now. And clearly there's a reason for it. And I'm very
Yeah.
grateful. And it's so empowering whenever that shifts and it's so
Yeah.
powerful as well.
Mhm.
So
When
I wish more people would do it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. But let's face it, it's scary. Looking at the darkness within us
Yeah.
is scary. No wonder people don't want to do it. It's
Yeah,
terrifying. You have
absolutely.
to be really ready for it.
Yeah, you do. And
Mhm.
it's important that people, if they have never done shadow work before, I don't know if that's part of what you do, but in terms of clearing the trauma and doing that shadow work, I don't necessarily have to relive the trauma in order to clear it, which I think is the most important thing because whenever people think about it, they're like, oh God, I have to relive every second of
Mhm.
this. And of course, our brains don't know the difference between a memory and an experience we're
Yeah,
living right now. So
100%.
all of the physiological, just panic
Yeah.
reactions are happening again in our
Mhm.
bodies. That doesn't need to happen whenever you're clearing trauma, not necessarily. And
No,
I
not at
think
all.
that information like that has not been shared enough. Like
Mhm.
you do not have to face your demons, you just have to be aware of them. And
Yeah.
the fact that they're there.
I think really what you're doing is you're just increasing your capacity to sit with them. That's all
Yeah.
you're doing. They never completely go away
No.
because we live in a reality that is based on polarity. We have to
Hmm.
have what we perceive as good and bad, dark and light, and we are part of this reality. So we're going to hold all of that within us.
Hmm.
But then when we suppress the darkness, that's when things start going wrong. And that's when, like you were speaking about earlier with that nurse who heals physical trauma, the body can start showing us
Yeah,
that something is wrong through physical,
definitely.
like illnesses appearing or physical injuries, things like this, because that's like the last point when you can't hold that darkness or the trauma anymore. The body tries to scream at you and say, I
Yeah.
need to have this gone. So, a lot of the time with energetic work, I find that the physical ailments that we have, it all ties back to either like an energetic belief or a trauma that has happened to us, and we've held that trauma in our body and just not realized that it's there. So it can really manifest in so many different ways. And like it's really been a bit of a journey for me just coming to terms with that, because
Yeah.
when you work in, like, I'm an intuitive coach and I come from a background of tarot reading and crystal energy work. So I spent a lot of time up here in the ether and in all the, the higher chakras.
Me too.
It's nicer up there though, right?
Yeah.
So we kind of forget that we should be in our bodies as well. And this is part of the package deal with you, as being a human, you're a multidimensional soul, but you're having a physical experience. So
Yeah.
if you're denying your physical aspects, you're actually denying your soul of the lessons that it wants to learn in this lifetime. And there are so many gifts in just dropping back into your body and being
Mhm.
present in the physical a little bit more often.
Yeah, I love that. It's so true, and it is very enjoyable to live what I have been referring to as like the 4D,
Yeah.
and just recognizing like you can't obviously say this to people like, oh, you're operating from your ego right now. You can't do that. But yeah, as you said, it's important to reconnect with yourself and be mindful of the fact that there is like a soul pact going on. Your higher self agreed to come into this body and to learn lessons and to help
Yeah.
people, which is, I think, why so many intuitive people do end up becoming coaches or healers or working with crystal energy, as you said.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's very common. And would you consider yourself as a highly sensitive person, just uh, as a human being,
Yes.
emotionally? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I feel
Exceptionally.
a lot.
My intuitive abilities are predominantly clairsentience, which is
Okay.
like clear feeling. So when I have a client, I can physically feel in my body the emotions and the pain that they're experiencing themselves. So that actually comes from trauma though, because when I was a child, I had to be aware of my environment and the adults who were around me because I lived in quite a volatile household.
Me too.
And the adults in my house were not emotionally regulated. So, as a small child, I had to learn to read people's emotional state and read facial cues and body expressions and just like feel the energy before anything erupted so that I could take myself away and be safe. But
Yeah,
that trauma, I would not change for anything because it now offers me the opportunity to feel other people's emotions that they might not be able to tap into. And then I can guide them to work with them and just explore them and release anything that's not beneficial to them anymore. So it's like turning that the pain of my past into something really positive for my clients and seeing them flourish because of that as well. It makes it all worthwhile. It really does.
yeah. That sounds exactly the way I work, except I um helping them through NLP coaching. and
Mhm.
rewiring their brain. But
Yeah.
I have never heard the gift that you spoke of. Could you tell me what it was again? Claire, what?
Clairsentience.
Claire sentence. I think that's me. I think I might be that person. I didn't think I was gifted at all, but the way you've described it, like, yeah, no, that's exactly how
Everybody
I
is.
operate in life.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that
Every
makes
single one
perfect
of
sense.
us, whether we believe it or not, we are intuitive, we are psychic. I know there's a lot of like negative connotations around the world, the word psychic, because of,
Mhm.
like witches and, creating spells and things like that. And it's
Religious
really not.
propaganda.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Whereas I fully believe that every single one of us are intuitive. I can
Mm,
teach people to do what it is that I do, because all that has happened is I have become highly sensitive to the next level of my basic five senses. Because
mhm.
that's all intuitive abilities are. It's just the heightened awareness of the five senses that you already have. So it's really because we live in a world where we're constantly bombarded and distracted and told to be a certain way and whatnot, we spend a lot of time in our head, and we really are not given the opportunity to take the time to sit in our own energy and really
Mhm.
experience these heightened awarenesses that are available to all of us.
It's fascinating the way that you put that. Now, I am absolutely not an expert, but my background is in like the psychology realm and art therapy,
Mm-hmm.
and very interested in neuroscience and how our brains work. And my interest in that, like you, was overcoming the trauma
Yeah,
of childhood and learning. Like I have always been highly sensitive, but it was in a highly anxious way.
yeah,
So I was always attempting to rewire my brain because I didn't want to be highly sensitive. I didn't want to be anxious.
mm-hmm.
And I did learn at some point that my high sensitivity was a superpower. Not everybody had the ability, like as is right now, without learning it. And
Mm-hmm.
I discovered that it's some people are more naturally inclined to have their micro neurons sync up with the other person in the room. So I'm wondering, like, I would love a neuroscientist to come on here and explain what's going
Yeah,
on whenever you teach people how to do that, because that absolutely blows my mind, and I think it's incredibly fascinating. But I think it's fantastic that it can be taught and it can be
yeah,
cultivated.
mm-hmm.
That's great. And I
Exactly.
just wanted to ask one more question, just circling back, because I'm learning all about this world. I've been on my personal development journey since I was about 18, so that's 20 years. And it was always from a psychology point of view and from a very
Mm-hmm.
logical point of view.
Yeah,
And it wasn't until last year when I had my near-death experience that I started actually reading Joe Dispenza and learning all about being in the body, connecting the body and the mind together. And then I
mm-hmm.
just fell down the rabbit hole. Like I felt like Alice in Wonderland falling down that big
Yeah,
chute, that massive house with tiny doors. And I have just been learning so much. And I started the group because I wanted to learn more. I
yeah,
wanted to learn from fellow practitioners here in Australia and New Zealand, just for time zone reasons mostly.
yeah. Of
But
course, I
I
know.
think it's also fantastic to keep or develop a network where we can all support one another.
Yeah,
So
100%.
I'm so open to learning, and I would love to learn about. I've started collecting crystals and learning about crystal energy, but are there specific practices that you would recommend to facilitate maybe emotional healing just to begin with?
With crystals or just
Yeah,
in general?
well, both would be good information to find out. Yeah, just as a starting point,
Yeah,
not.
well, the way with crystals, especially, the way that they work and why they are so healing is because they vibrate at a higher frequency,
Mhm,
and different crystals all vibrate at different frequencies. So, depending on what your needs are, you will be drawn to that frequency because that's what you're lacking in yourself. So the likes of rose quartz, which is a very popular crystal for healing the heart, people tend to go there first because it's such a soothing stone, and really allows you to kind of drop into your heart space a little bit more
Okay.
without you even realizing that you're doing it. So,
Mm.
crystals, I found the reason I actually moved away from crystals is because I found that they were kind of, it was almost like bypassing for me because I would use the crystals and not actually explore why I was drawn to these crystals. So
Okay.
that's why I'm now kind of more into the physical aspect of it all. And when emotions come up for me now, rather than just go and grab a crystal and go, make me feel better, I go, where is this emotion coming from? Let's actually sit with it. Let's actually unpack this. Am I reacting this way because of what happened right now? Or is that because of a programmed belief that I have from my childhood or from earlier on in life? And it's through that lens that I'm reacting this way. So it's really, it just takes attention. Like where your attention goes, energy will flow. So when you focus on the emotion that's coming to you or coming up in that moment, is looking to be acknowledged. But the whole point of emotions is they are constantly in motion. We're not supposed
Yeah.
to be stuck in one emotion at any one given time. It's meant to move through us. And it's only when these emotions get stuck that that is when trauma kind of sticks within the body and illness, disease can develop and things like that. So if we're holding on and bottling up our emotions and not allowing them to be seen and felt, then that's usually where I find the problems arise. So it's as simple as just sitting and acknowledging it.
Okay. Just because I'm a total beginner, I've always been drawn to amethyst. That was my first go-to, and I think it's
Mhm.
because it reminds me of my granny. She always wore an amethyst ring, and it was just something she always had on her. So after she passed, I was very drawn to
Yeah.
amethyst. And because I had no idea what I was doing, and I did understand the vibration aspect of it,
Mhm.
and I would sit with the crystal, but I would also do the exploration. And I found that I don't know if it was just an aid or a prop or what, but I did find it very helpful. I'm not 100% sure what amethyst does, like what the frequency is with
Well,
that.
amethyst is the reason that so many people use amethyst, and it's always when people hear crystals, they usually think of an amethyst because it's so popular. And the
Okay.
reason it is so popular is because it's such a good kind of overall general healer. It
Okay.
helps us heal ailments in our body, but it also helps us to connect to our more spiritual side, to our intuition. And it
Okay.
also acts as a really strong protective crystal, so it's like a good kind of all rounder. And
Okay.
when it's doing all of those things all at once, that's why you feel better because you're
Okay.
getting all of this like multifaceted support from
Fantastic.
crystal like amethyst. Plus, you also have the comfort that it was reminding you of your granny,
Yeah.
you know? So it's like a link to her. So that
Hmm.
emotional support that she would have given you is what you are feeling with that crystal as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I was having a bit of a meltdown the other day, and a white feather just dropped. I was outside, and a white feather just dropped and landed on the grass, and I was like, oh. But it was so good. I'm a big fan of crying because I know
Oh,
that it gets the energy out.
yeah.
But there are some times as well that just because you were talking about stuck energy there, like it's mad that I was in my late 30s whenever I realized, you're not meant to hold on to energy,
Mhm.
or emotions. They're meant to come and go in
Yeah.
waves. Like you don't have to hold on to it. You don't
Mhm.
have to ruminate over it. You just let it go. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, that's how it works. Okay. But yeah, I love crying because it just lets the energy flow and it
Yeah,
gets it out of you. And then maybe you're a bit tired afterwards, but that's good because you have released the energy. And I
absolutely.
find that sometimes something can happen and I can't cry. So if that ever happens to anybody, I highly recommend going to YouTube and looking up heartwarming old people videos or heartwarming animal videos or
Yeah.
veterans coming home from war and being reunited with their pets because you will bawl your eyes out.
Yeah.
And it's just good to get it out.
Yeah, for sure. I do the same thing when I know that I'm holding on to stuff and I can't let it go because I'm just distracted or whatever. I will like pop on a TV film or something like that
Yeah.
that I know is going to evoke this emotion in me.
Yeah.
because we need to cry and just let it out. But then we're
Yeah.
shamed about that when we're younger, aren't we? We're told, don't
Yeah.
cry, big girls don't cry.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
So,
I can't cry in front of people. That's my big
yeah,
thing.
I'm the same. Yeah,
I have to be in private, and I will. I'm excellent at quiet crying. So people in the next room don't know I'm crying. But if nobody's here, oh, I bawled it out. I don't mind. I just let it go.
yeah, good on you. It's
Yeah,
good to
it's
get
just
that
so
out.
important to let it go.
Yeah,
Really, really is.
for sure.
And it doesn't matter how big or small it is. If you think that a good cry could help you out, absolutely do it.
Yeah,
Mm.
there's a reason that your body's reacting that way. So you should
Yeah,
honor it and just allow your body
absolutely.
to move through the natural process itself without standing in the way and without letting this get in the way of, I
Yes.
shouldn't cry, I need to suck it up.
No, no, no sucking it up.
No, definitely not.
Just absolutely just let that shit go. Oh my goodness.
Mhm.
So do you have any programs at the minute that you are either practicing or developing that could help people be more in their bodies and connect with themselves?
Yes, I'm actually working on a course at the moment, and
Okay.
it's an embodiment course. So it's really teaching people how to just be present in their body. And it works through all of the different aspects of the emotions, the mental body, your actual belief systems and things like that. So it is a work in progress, but that will be coming out hopefully within the next month or so, and that'll be available. So I'm just at the moment, what I'm doing is one-on-one client um, consultations, and there's actually like a coaching program that I have. So you can book block sessions, either 3 or 6 months, and work with me on a one-on-one basis, and we can personalize sort of like treatment plans, I suppose. But it's really I intuitively channel the stuff that's going to help you most get through whatever it is that you're struggling with at this
Mhm.
moment in time. And every session that we have, these things change as well. Because what's actually happening is a beautiful process. I'm tuning into your higher self when I'm
Mhm.
working with you. So all of the information is coming directly from your higher being. So it's going to be perfect for what you need, and it's going to help you get on your highest path and just really work through things as quickly as possible. Because yes, I can have a backlog of techniques and things that have worked for me, but they're not necessarily going to work for you because
Yeah.
you're completely different to me. You've had different experiences from me. You view life through a different lens than I do. So everything that I do with clients is very tailor made to each individual.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm the same with my clients. I find that I didn't realize I was doing it so intuitively, but I definitely was. And I have found with NLP sessions, I think I've said this before, that clients come with preconceived notions. And I know myself from going through NLP coaching, you go with, okay, I'm going to clear this today. But whenever you get into that really relaxed state, you're just like, oh shit, what's this coming up? What? And it's let this go. Where did this come from? You've been holding on to this
Yeah.
for 20 years. Like, it's amazing what comes up.
Yeah.
And it is your higher self doing what is best for you in this moment.
Yeah.
And you as your human self co-creating with the
Mhm.
universe to improve your life. And I think that
Yeah.
is just fantastic in whatever way you choose to do
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
It's
definitely.
amazing. And we just have to, as a human, we have to get ourselves out of the way and just allow that to happen, which is the hardest thing. Like we are all control freaks.
Yes. Or and not even that. It could be like somebody's partner isn't supportive of it. So they just dismiss it and don't even go down that path, even though that is the most natural, simple, and most logical path for them to go down because somebody else they love and respect doesn't respect this option.
Yeah.
They just, and I'm speaking from personal experience there,
Mhm.
but yeah, it can be. I talked to somebody, just a potential client, who said that their husband doesn't believe in like coaching and filling their heads with all these ideas, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh, we're clearing,
Hmm.
we're clearing stuff out. We're not filling.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's difficult whenever that is the limiting belief or the limiting reason for them not to proceed on their
Hmm.
healing journey. And it's,
Yeah.
yeah,
I find that the healing journey is sometimes it can be such a lonely one. It really can.
yeah,
And depending on what stage you're at or what you're going through, you will probably, dip in and out of extreme loneliness. Because I know
yeah,
myself, I've been on a healing journey now for about 10 years. And
mhm,
there are some times when I just feel like I'm all alone and nobody understands me. And am I actually mad because this is what I do and what I believe in, and nobody else I
yeah,
talk to seems to? And that's why community is so important, and why things
yeah,
like this podcast is so important, because it makes you realize that you're not alone. Like,
yeah,
there are thousands of us crazies in the village. You just need to look for them.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's why I love the group. And like I've got a couple of clients in there as well that they themselves are clearly gifted. And they're
Mhm.
just like, you're clearly a very intuitive person. I'm like, yeah, yeah, I guess so. No, no, I know I
Yeah.
definitely am intuitive. And like, as you say, you go through the healing journey is never ending. And like Abraham Hicks says, you can never get it done and you can never get it wrong.
Yeah.
And I love remembering that in
Mhm.
times where I'm like, you know what, I'm just a bit too tired right now. This is the time for rest and recovery, and
Mhm.
then I'll get back into it. And it's important to have people in your life who recognize that and who understand what you're going
Yeah.
through and have maybe been through that themselves. Whether it's a friend or a colleague or just someone you can like drop into and chat to
Mhm.
about this, because as you said, it can be very lonely and very
Yeah.
isolating,
Mhm.
especially when like my boyfriend constantly refers to me as magic. He thinks I'm magic. He doesn't know how I'm able to cope with such heavy things and
Mhm.
deal with them. He described it as gracefully. He's like, you've dealt with this so gracefully. I don't know how you've done it. And I'm just like, it's part of the journey. It's part of the
Yeah.
learnings. Like trying to understand why this is happening for me, not to me. What are
Yes.
the lessons I need to learn here? And like if I'm having a crappy time, it's like, okay, what are you trying to teach me, universe? What's going on? And I
Yeah.
do a lot of journaling. Do you
Mhm.
incorporate journaling into your own personal practice of healing?
Yeah, for sure. Journaling is just so important. And I
Yeah.
do automatic writing as well. I
Oh.
find that's really good for just channeling through whatever it is I need to focus on right now. But yeah, I think when you are like a highly sensitive person, or
Mm,
you are kind of more on the sensitive scale of things, it's really important to have like a creative outlet as well,
mhm.
and really just expressing yourself in any way that you can. And for a lot of people, journaling is really effective. So yeah, I
Yeah.
highly recommend it.
I used to, as an art therapist and still an artist, like I do pet portraits and stuff, but
Wow.
I would always have incorporated automatic writing, but there's a way to describe it. But I would have done my automatic writing as scribbles laying over the top of one another, because I would have advised people, if you are in a household where you don't trust that your privacy is sacred and you are bottling all this shit up, get it out on paper. This is a way to get it out on paper where nobody will be able to read it, not even you, but it will get it out. And I then used to tear pieces of that up and incorporate it into my art. And I would encourage my students to do the same thing, because that in itself just took the healing to another level.
Mhm.
And it was such an enjoyable process as well.
Yeah.
As you know, things like that, whenever you are doing automatic writing, your brain is in the alpha mode. So
Mhm.
you're in the flow state. And it's the same whenever you are then taking that trauma and creating something beautiful out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so powerful. So if
Massive.
anybody is listening that is also artistic and likes the idea of art journaling or creating
Mhm.
art on canvas, that's a fantastic way to do that
Mhm.
and to make something beautiful out of something that's been really crappy for you. It's
Yeah,
really
for
good.
sure. I just was put onto art therapy recently because I've got a
Mhm,
very good friend who is an art therapist, and
mhm,
she advised me because I was going through quite a difficult time. It was when I was transitioning from the crystal healing business into my new business, intuitive
mhm,
embodiment. And I just felt a bit stuck and didn't know which direction to take. And all of the tuning in for myself and whatever else just wasn't working. And I knew
mhm,
I had to just leave it to unfold as it had to. But my friend, she suggested journaling through art. So I would sit every day and just do anything. Like, it started just as squiggles on the page, and I would
yeah,
color in with different colors and the shapes that I'd created. And then some days it was like a landscape that I would do, and that you do it, just whatever needed to come out came out. And I
yeah,
found that it really helped me get unstuck. It just
yeah,
brought so much clarity and so much calm. And it gets
yeah,
you out of your head because you're constantly like, I should be doing this, I should be doing that, I need to do this.
yeah.
It's like, no, just sit down and just be creative. And it's amazing what comes through when you do that.
It's
Just
great because
surrender.
you don't have the option to overthink whenever you're just creating. And
Mhm.
people often have a preconceived notion that the art has to look a certain way, and it has to be perfect.
Yeah.
And I would also always tell my clients, like, to me, a rose is perfect. It is so stunningly beautiful. But if you took each individual petal, they are all different shapes. None of them is perfect.
Yeah.
But to me, it is so beautiful because of its imperfections,
Hmm.
that, and it is so unique to that rose or person,
Yeah.
depending on what it is they're wanting to do or what style they're doing, even if they're just learning. I always say you can paint over it, it doesn't matter, you can chuck it in the
Yeah.
bin, as long as you just spend the time
Yeah.
and just allow it to flow, and you
Hmm.
will get better over time. And it's akin to kind of just a relaxing meditation, that kind of
Yeah.
time, and
Hmm.
giving yourself the space to just stop thinking, just
Yeah.
shut your brain down.
Well,
Just
that's, yeah,
don't worry about it.
exactly. It's like awakened meditation, isn't it? It's the same with like maybe cooking or, you
Hmm.
know, walking your dogs,
Yeah,
anything can be turned into meditation. It doesn't have to just
yeah,
be sat in the lotus position going, om,
yeah.
which
Because
is
a lot of,
what a lot of people believe it is. But that
yeah,
notion kind of puts you off even contemplating meditation, when in actual fact, you can turn anything into a meditative practice.
yeah,
It's just
definitely.
that conscious kind of focus that is required.
Yeah, I love the fact that there's so many different modalities. Like, you don't just have to sit, as you say, in the lotus position or be lying down in a darkened room with your eyes closed. Like, there are so many ways. I love walking meditation. They're
Yeah.
fantastic. But a lot of people do have the preconceived notion that they have to sit still and empty their brains. It's like, no, dude, no. I love, I'm guessing that you have heard of the app Headspace.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yep. So I discovered them in like 2014, and they were the first ones who really described it's like, no, it's like you're sitting on a hill and you're watching a four-lane highway and you're just watching the cars go by, accepting that they're there. You don't have to get into any of the cars. You just have to watch.
Yeah, that's the thing. And traffic doesn't stop, just
Yeah,
like your thoughts don't stop. It's just when you can detach yourself from your thoughts, that's what you want to achieve.
yeah,
Excuse me, I've
definitely.
got a frog in my throat.
No, you're okay. I was watching. I was like, oh my God, what do I do if she chokes?
Give the Heimlich maneuver through
Yeah, I
Zoom.
should start collecting emergency contact details. So yeah, I remember reading a book in 2014. I think it was The Happiness Project by Gretchen Rubin, and she was adamant that she did not want to meditate. Meditation was not for her, didn't like it. But there are so many options. I didn't know it at the time. I did end up going on a meditation course, and it was absolutely for me, loved it. But I did have friends who really struggled with it,
Mhm.
and they then ended up going to yoga, which was fantastic for them, not so much for me. but I love that there are so many different options out there.
Yeah.
And like I wish more people didn't see the woo-woo side of it and just saw the results that came
Yeah.
out of it, because it would be just it would completely change everything
Yeah.
if that were possible. And
Yeah.
I would love to like I wonder where the preconceived notions and the woo-woo-ness came out of it. It was probably just because it was so different from that like stiff upper lip Protestantism that came out of England, you know.
Yeah. Well, I think the UK especially is just, they are very sort of focused on what is right and what is proper and the proper way to behave, and you have to live life this way and you get the 9 to 5 and whatever else. So it's very sort of narrow minded, I feel, having an
Yeah,
up in the UK. It really does. It sets you on a path that's quite hard to unravel.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I think just society in general, what it where it all stems from, I believe, is because when people don't understand something, they make fun of it. So
yeah,
if people can't quantify what it is that you do when you're a bit more spiritual, then they're so repelled by it and they feel that the only way to deal with it is to make fun of it.
yeah.
So
And a lot of people are just afraid of what they don't know. So
mm,
they make fun of it to minimize it.
yeah,
Yeah. And like I know I've done it myself, and
yeah,
it's it's not even like you can learn about it and have intellectual knowledge of it, but until you have experienced it,
yeah,
I think you're just never going to get it, which is so unfortunate. But I am
yeah,
very glad that meditation is becoming much more mainstream now, and it is
yeah.
thanks to the guys behind Headspace, Andy, I know in particular. Like it is like thank you for all the money you put into advertising. I appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. There's so many, like, there's quite good incentives now in workplaces and things that are becoming
Mm,
a bit more progressive in their thinking. And, they actually have like people come in, like wellness experts come into workplaces. I know, especially here in Australia, because I'm in Western Australia, we are very much the mining capital of the world with
okay.
and whatnot. So there's a lot of mental health issues with people who do fly in, fly out from work, and because of the long stints that they have to do away from home.
Mhm.
And I think there is a lot more awareness around mental health nowadays, which is fantastic. And just learning basic coping strategies. And meditation is just such a go to for many people now because
Yeah.
it is more accessible and it is being put out in front of us these days. I've got my husband he works in the construction industry and he actually meditates more than I do now.
Really? Well, my partner also works in the construction industry, and I got him into meditation by recording meditations for him and just showing him how accessible they
Yeah.
were. And I didn't tell him I was going to do this. I just did it. And he was like, "Were you trying to hypnotize me?" But it worked well, and he now does meditate whenever
Yeah.
he feels like he's struggling a bit.
Hmm.
And yeah, the hours are just unfriendly. They're so strange.
They
And
are.
yeah, I can totally understand why, even when you go to one of those mining places, you're in like a camp,
Yeah.
basically,
Yeah.
and you're there for weeks, and it's like it looks like mm, and just having seen one and him having gone away to
Yeah.
one of these mines for
Mhm.
construction purposes, like you get your special t-shirts and you have to wear your special number around the place. Like
Yeah.
it's very strange. So I
Eh,
can totally understand. It's all practically, not all, but practically all guys. And I
mhm.
can just that amount of testosterone flying about the place. Yeah, I can imagine. I know, like that
Yeah.
would be so overwhelming for me.
For sure. And the thing is, like the way energy works, we all we begin to co-regulate our
Yeah,
energy levels depending on who's around us.
yeah,
And if you are surrounded by gruff men all the time who are completely repelled by the thought of even having an emotion, never mind exploring one, then what chance have you got, you know?
I know. It's great. It's just, Dear
It's
help them
bad.
because it is such an epidemic within
Yeah.
construction workers, particularly. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's strange as an immigrant to see the difference between the way the countries handle it.
Hmm.
I do know that the UK is becoming a little bit better with getting wellness practitioners into the workspace, and I would say that that is 100% due to so many people burning out, and they're like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
prevention is better than cure. Let's start here, and
Yeah.
it's just heartbreaking that it's taken so long.
Mm. I know
And
it really is.
but for the longest time as well, the employers would not have been told why they're taking extended time off. There would have been another reason just because of the stigma around it.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. It's because you worry about the fact that you might not have your job to go back to, because if
Yeah,
somebody thinks that you've got, if your boss thinks you've got mental health issues, then they're not going to want you on their workforce. When in
yeah,
actual fact, the majority of the population have some sort of mental health issue on a
yeah.
huge scale.
Hmm.
It depends where you are and what you've gone through in your life. That kind of depends where you are on that sliding scale,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
you can always, I think what people don't realize as well is that even though when you have a mental health issue, it doesn't mean that you can't recover from it and come back to the other end of the scale, but then maybe
Yeah,
you relapse and go up the higher end of the scale. It's a constant sliding scale. It's like
yeah,
a management of your mental health, just the way you manage your physical health. Sometimes in winter we might be putting on a little bit of weight because
yeah.
we're sat indoors and you want to eat comforting food like cheese and stodgy carby stuff.
Irish stew. Oh.
Nice. So yeah, it's the same thing. We put on weight over winter because we're stocking up because we're trying to comfort ourselves. But then when summer comes, we lose the weight again, or maybe you struggle with weight all of your life, and it's like a
Yeah.
constant up and down. It's the same with mental health and emotional issues as well.
It's
We're
all
never
about, oh,
static.
sorry, no, go on ahead.
I
Never
was just
static.
going to
Yeah,
say,
that's
yeah, we're
true.
never static. We're constantly evolving. We are energy, and energy is
Yeah,
constantly moving. So,
yeah,
of course, our state of being is going to change, sometimes
yeah.
quite diversely over our
It's
lifetime.
all about developing discipline, and you can start so small, but
Hmm.
it's about having a framework really for your life and the little meditations or exercises that you do throughout your day or your
Yeah.
week, and just doing them repetitively
Hmm.
and just keeping on top of it. Yeah, it's so important, so vital.
Yeah. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. It's just like when if you're setting out on a new gym routine or something like that, like
yeah,
our wellness, our everyday sort of well-being should be an ongoing process. It should be, like you say,
yeah,
you get a set routine of what you do to nourish yourself and show yourself compassion and self-care. And just like we don't think twice about having a shower, brushing our teeth, put makeup on, whatever. It should be the same for our mental health and our emotional health. Like your
definitely.
well-being is like an overall package deal. It's not just one or other, or.
Yeah, I think people are finally starting to come around to that idea,
Mhm.
just because, as you said, so many people in our population are experiencing mental health issues and they're
Mhm.
not necessarily getting the support that they definitely need.
Yeah.
And I hope that if somebody stumbles across these interviews, they find a practitioner in Australia or New Zealand that aligns
Mhm.
with them, energetically speaking, and
Yeah.
also what they're interested in and the results that they want to get. So that
Mhm.
is my main aim, as well as connecting with so many fantastic souls who just help to lift the energy of the day. It's fantastic. It's really good. I'm glad I started this.
Yeah, I bet there must be so many different people with lots of
Yeah.
different information to share. You're going to be like an oracle at the end of the series. You're going to know
Yeah.
so many little bits.
Yeah, all the shortcuts. Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be fantastic. So, yeah, I just want to thank you so much for joining me again today. And It has been such a wonderful conversation. I have really enjoyed meeting you, as I know we chatted before, just about being immigrants. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's been absolutely fantastic to speak to you.
Yeah,
And
it's
thank
been
you for
wonderful.
coming on.
Thank you so much for having me, Claire.
Yes, no problem. And I'll get all your links off you that you would like to share, and I'll be sure to add them in the descriptions or captions so people can find you easily.
Okay,
All
perfect.
right.
Yeah, I can give
Thank
you
you.
those.
I hope you enjoyed that wee chat. I would love for you to comment below and let me know what your biggest takeaway from this conversation was. It was an absolute joy, as always. If you are watching on YouTube, please make sure to like and subscribe and share with your friends. Similar, if you are listening as a podcast, wherever you listen to your podcast, please rate and review because it really helps us grow. Thank you so much for listening. See you next week.